there. In this video I'm going to introduce a very basic understanding of CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And what cascading style sheets are is basically it's very powerful element that allows us to design the whole page. Okay, so if you take a look at what we have right now in our HTML, because all this is just HTML, we are describing the different content on this page. We've got headings, we've got paragraphs, we've got lists, we've got images. All these are different contents. And what I like to use is the analogy of a house. So if I have a builder, let's say I have 5 different builders, I give them the same blueprint for what I want my house to look like. They're all going to build me a house, and it's pretty much, if they're following my blueprint correctly, is going to look the same. Okay, now this house doesn't have any colors to it or any flooring or painted walls or anything like that. It is just the frame of the house. Okay, so the HTML is the frame of our web page in terms of contents, the architecture of the page. CSS is the design of the page. So again, now I've got 5 houses that look exactly the same, and then I call up 5 different designers and I say, I want you to decorate my house for me. I want you to choose what the floor is going to look like, what the walls are going to look like, what what window coverings you're going to put on the windows. What are you going to choose for the outside of my house, for the roof of my house? What are the shingles going to look like? What's the color of my front door? So all of these things, if I give them the same structure to 5 different people, I'm going to have 5 completely different houses in terms of how it looks. They're all going to be exactly the same size rooms, the same, square footage, things like that, but the design and the style of each of those is going to be different. That's how you have to see CSS, because if I did the same thing, if I gave you the structure of my HTML page and said, make this look pretty, you're all going to have a different way of interpreting what that might be. Okay, so this is what we're going to do today. We're going to do some very basic CSS so you kind of have an understanding of where to go from CSS. Some people get really confused with CSS, but my job is to try and make it something that you can grasp easily and you can continue to build upon the understanding, because CSS is very powerful and you can do a lot of things with it. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to, since we're just using one page here, we're going to put our style declarations inside this page, and we're going to do that in the head section. So I mentioned this is the head section where we put information about our website, the title, we can put the description, the author, the language, things like that. We also use the head section to pull in files from like CSS files, JavaScript files, font files, and we can use it to put our in-page CSS declarations. So we're going to do that with the style tag. And the style tag, just going to go ahead and put the opening and closing. It does have an attribute which is called type, and we're going to choose text/CSS. Now, everything inside this style tag is going to be what you would see in a CSS file. Okay, in most cases, you're going to have a separate CSS file with all these declarations. But if it's just one single page that you're using on your website, it's okay to have this up at the top. Alright, so CSS in the simplest term is basically a rule that we create for a particular, in this again basic idea, for a particular HTML element. So I am going to tell you that the top element for my page is going to be body. The body tag is what everything else in my page is in. Okay, so it's going to be like the parent tag. So if I want to create a rule for the body tag, this will be applied for the whole page. So there's pros and cons to this. Again, since we're doing just a simple example here, I think this will work, but when you get a much more complicated layout, these tricks don't necessarily, apply across the board to things. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna put my HTML element, and then I'm going to use these curly braces. And the curly braces, some people haven't used them before. They are next to your P key on your keyboard, and they're the shift of the square brackets. Okay, so your rule for your HTML element is going to be within these curly braces. Now, this is where you have to have some understanding of the different types of properties that are available in CSS, and there are a lot of them. For example, the properties, just from w3schools.com, this is a CSS reference to the different property groups. Okay, so this is all broken down into different categories. So just for background, you see there's tons and tons of properties. Again, this is where I say don't freak out. Um, I'm going to teach you the basic ones, and then you just have an understanding that very likely there could be a property for what you're trying to do. It might require you to go out to a CSS reference guide and try and find something that might match, or Google for an answer. I get a lot of people asking me, am I supposed to remember all of this? Am I supposed to have all of this memorized? The answer is no, especially in the beginning. So, we use reference books. We frequently have, a list of CSS property value combinations nearby so that when we're doing some more sophisticated designs, we might reference those. But generally, you're working with, a much smaller set of properties, and you get to know them pretty quickly. Okay, so back to my page. The first thing that I want to do, and the first thing that I like to do, is I can't stand all of my content being sitting here on the left hand side of my browser. So what I want to do is I want to add some sort of margin. And the margin, if you think about it, is similar to the margin in a word processing like tool such as Word. So when you open up Word, by default you might have like a 1-inch margin around the top right, bottom left side of your page. Okay, because that's the way it works, and then you can edit it from here. So what I'm really concerned about is this left margin. You see there's a little bit of margin at the top of the page. My content doesn't come anywhere near my right side of my margin, and it certainly isn't very long on the bottom here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my first rule that says for the body tag, I want to have a margin, a margin and then colon, and I'm going to pass it a value. And this value is going to be, I'm going to pass my value in pixels. So right now, if I've got my browser here, this might be 800 pixels wide. So if I want it to come in a little bit to maybe where this T is, this might be 80 pixels wide. So let's just take a guess. So I'm going to do 80 px. Then I'm going to end my property and value statement here with a semicolon. That's very important. You have to have a semicolon at the end of this. I'm going to go ahead and click save and see if I came anywhere near there. So that's about where my star is. Let's see. So yeah, that's pretty good. Now you notice, what did you notice here? Not only did I get my left margin, but I got a margin on the top. There is a margin on the right, and I got a margin on the bottom. So when you use margin, it will apply to all 4 sides of my browser window. If I only want to apply the margin to one area, I can specify. So now I'm going to get rid of it and I'm going to change it to margin left. Okay, I'll get rid of that. Okay, so if I just want to apply it to one section, let's see what happens. Margin left, refresh my page. Now you notice it's just on the left. It's not, the top went back to normal. The bottom doesn't have one, the right side doesn't have one. Now, the likelihood that you'll only want a margin on the left is probably not really something that's going to happen, but I just wanted to show you for reference sake. If you only want to specify a particular area, you can. Now, there's also a shorthand. Let's say I have something like margin top. I want that to be 25 pixels. And then I want, because I want to keep it consistent, I want 80 pixels on the right. And the margin bottom, I might as well stick to 25 pixels. Like, yeah, maybe I'll stick to 50. 50 pixels on the bottom. Oops. Alright, so I've got all four sides of my margin defined here. Okay, I'm going to refresh my page. So here I've got, you didn't really notice that my margin top took place, but I guess it did. Can't really notice that my right one did, but you can see down here that I have my margin bottom and my margin right is the same. So instead of having 4 lines of text, I can just do this little shorthand trick, which is to go back to margin and think of the browser page like a clock. Okay, the first spot that we start with is 12 o'clock, which is up here at the top. So that's the top. Then we go to the right. Then we go to the bottom, right? That's 6 o'clock. Then we go to the 9. Okay, and then we go back up. So I can condense all of these into one line by starting at the top. Okay, 25 pixels, that's my 12 o'clock. And then putting a space. And then 80 pixels. 80 pixels for my right, putting a space, and then 50 pixels for my bottom, 50 pixels, and then 80 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all these now and just use that one shorthand. And I'm going to refresh and it looks exactly the same. So you see 4 numbers like that in a row, that means top, right, bottom, left. Okay, if you wanted them to be the same, the top to be the same and the right and left to be the same, you could do something like, let's say I want them to be 50 and 80. You can do even further shorthand and say 50, 80, which means the top and bottom is 50 and the right and left is 80. So there we go. Okay, so that was my margin. Now let's say I also want the background of this page to be a different color. I can hit enter here and I can provide I can just start typing background. There's background color. Now when it comes to colors, we like to use so many different colors out there. We like to use hex declarations or RGB declarations, or you could use words. So the easiest thing might be to use words, but you might not be able to get that specific color that you want. So I'm going to do, like, let's say I want this to be, let's just say blue. Okay, this is probably going to be a really bright blue. So once I save that, remember this background color is applying to the entire body tag, which means this entire page is going to be blue. Okay, quite bright. There it is though. So the entire browser window is blue. Now if I said I only want the background color of my H1 to be blue, I can make a new rule, H1, and say background color blue. Okay, maybe I want this not even to be there. And I'm going to save it. Let's see the difference. So this bright blue should go away, and the blue background should only be on my H1, which is only the one that says about this page. So it should only be right here. So there we go. Now, the reason it goes all the way down here is because my H1 tag is a block element, which means it's going to take up the whole section. And you notice it doesn't go to the very edges. Why? Because there's a margin. Okay? So because there's a margin, that isn't included in my area here. Let's say it's kind of hard to read that black on the blue. You want the contrast between your background colors and your font colors to be very high so that they're going to be readable by other people. So the font color is just called color, and I'm going to say I want it to be white. So let's see what happens here. This should change to white, like when I highlight it. Okay, that's a lot easier to read, right? Now I can keep going on with some more information here about what I want this H1 to look like. So let's say I want this about this page to be in the center. I can come over here and do text align equals center, and let's see what happens. There we go. I highly recommend that you play around with CSS and see what you can apply to which elements and have fun with that. Now, one thing that I want to quickly talk about here is we talked about margin, and you see that's outside of my H1 section. But what if I want to have some spacing inside the box? What if I want the blue to be bigger and the text to be inside the middle of that? This is where the box model comes in handy, and the box model is kind of one of those things that you have to have memorized in order to use CSS. So let's take a look here. The box model shows us here in the middle is the content. Okay, the content in this example is the about this page. Okay, so about this page is right here. The space around the content is called padding. So if you want that content box to be bigger, you want to use padding. And then outside of the padding is a optional border. Okay, so by default there is no border. And then outside of the border is the margin. Okay, the margin doesn't ever become the content. Okay, it's always outside of the content. So let's say I want this blue box to be bigger. I can use padding. Okay, and the padding works the same as the margin in terms of how we declare it. So I'm going to say that I don't necessarily need any padding on the right or left side. It's the height of this that I want to see bigger. So let's say I'm going to go 25 pixels for the top and then 0 for the sides, because I really don't care about the sides, and I want 25 for the bottom and 0. So I'm just going to keep it at 25 and 0. And when you're using 0, you don't have to specify px. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and this box should grow 25 pixels on the top and 25 pixels on the bottom. So there we go. That looks a little bit better. The other thing that I can do is I can always put a border around that if I want to. Let's just do that for the sake of having fun here. So border, again, shorthand, most people usually do this in, is they specify a width, 2 pixel, and then solid. So you can have solid, dotted, dash. There's lots of different values here. And then I'm going to say, let's do yellow just so you can see it, and that's not, we're not talking about like good use of colors here, but so this means I want a 2 pixel solid border that is yellow around this H1. Okay, so get ready, hold your eyes here. You can't quite see the yellow. Let me make it red so you can see that a little better. Let's try that again. Whoops. There we go. So there's red, and if I really wanted to make you see it bigger, I could even make that 10 pixels and you'll be able to see it there. Whoa! Okay, so there is your border. Other things that I can do is I can change the font. So I can change the font size. Um, let's say let's just stick with pixels for now. This is probably like in the 20s. So let's say I'm going to go like 44 pixels for my font size, and see, now my font size has gotten bigger. And then I could also change the font family. Okay, so by default everything is in Times New Roman. Um, there there aren't too many options here built in, it looks like, but I know of some fonts that I could use. I could use Verdana, and then I'm just gonna, a lot of times we specify the name of a font and then we might specify 3 different fonts, because when you specify a font family that has to be on the person's computer in order for it to display. So let's see. So I'm sure I have, so there, that font has changed, and if I don't have that font on my computer, it'll go to the next font. And if I don't have that font, it'll, once it reaches like a type of a font, it'll just choose whatever the default serif font is. Okay, this is all I'm going to do for now. I think we learned a lot of information, but just so you know that you can do the same thing for the paragraph. You can change the font because this is pretty small font. You can change the color. You can always change the background of that, the body if you want to. You can put a border around the image. You can change the image size. The possibilities with CSS are really quite endless. Okay, have some fun, experiment, and the best way to work through CSS is really just to keep practicing and learning it, and seeing what you can do with it, because you're not going to break anything. Okay?